Elise Pickett here with the Urban Harvest, and today I am going to give you a sneak peek at Echo Farm in Fort Myers, an organization that works around the world to teach people sustainable agriculture techniques that they can implement in their lives.
Started this in 1980-81, Dr. Price and his wife Bonnie. It's where they started Echo, basically. They are still here to this day. They have retired, but they are still here doing tours, and you may see him any day walking out here with others. Oh, it was originally a 5-acre plot, which has now become 55 acres. Lots of miracles here. Lots of amazing stories, and I hope they write a book someday on how they acquired the land when they needed it, how people came when they needed them. Just truly a place of miracles. They talk about sustainability. Why is that important? What does that mean? We think about the areas of the world like Haiti. How many years have we been missionaries and all kinds of folks all over the world have been going to Haiti, right, to help, And the question is, why are we still doing what we're doing over there when we've had all these years? Well, sustainability is something that Echo talks about in something like this. If you can put something in place and it can continue on for years, one generation to the next, providing income, providing food for the family. This is an example of that. If someone would happen to have some land, some of them do, they could dig themselves a pond, and after the research, Echo decided that it was tilapia that was the perfect fish. That fish grows very quickly, it reproduces at a very young age, it is pest resistant, it survives in the worst conditions in the murky, dirty waters. And they're vegans, right? They like to eat the grasses that grow naturally in the pond if they're fertilized. And for this part of the program, we need the ducks, right? The ducks do what all day? Poop. That's why we call this the poop tour. And basically, they are fertilizing the grasses. The tilapia are eating the grasses. They're not eating the poop. Get that out of your mind. People say, oh my gosh, I'm never going to eat tilapia again. They don't. They're strictly the grass eaters. And now you have ducks, which are always reproducing. They're also giving the farmer the eggs at night when they come in to be protected in this little cage, right? They also produce feathers and other kind of products, so providing income and food for the family. Perfect packages of protein because they don't have a lot of refrigeration, so they just use what they have to feed the family and also for income. So one example of a sustainable system for food and for providing income for someone in these areas of the world. And we were demonstrating 7 different types. Why do you think Echo is demonstrating these different, to tell a farmer, you need to have a variety? Why is that important? Harvesting, right, because what happens to the guy's income who's selling this, what happens to his income when they all come in at once? Everybody in the town has the same exact avocado. The prices go down, right? So this is a good way to keep their income at a more stable way. So they come in all times of the year. And like somebody said, the disease issues, if one type in fact, we had some disease issues going on with some of the avocados last year. You remember the video and the lady was stirring something they called Chaya, Chaya. This is a highly nutritious, full of protein, more iron than spinach, lots of vitamins, easily grown. You can chop this and stir fry it. I use it for cabbage rolls. Okay, it grows right outside my door. It grows in drought-like conditions. It grows up to, I would say, 7 feet in a year. All you do to get another plant, once you got your first plant, I bought my first one over here, and once it got about that high, I can just snap off one of these branches and stick it in the ground, and then I get another one. Well, the FDA says you have to cook it for 5 minutes. We talk about steaming it in a microwave as just an easy way. I never heard that there was controversy over which way is best to cook it out. It does, as she mentioned, it does have traces of cyanide. So does other food that we eat. It's nothing unusual. But, however, in other areas of the world, they do eat this raw. And I've had a friend who was volunteering in an orphanage in Haiti several years ago and called me and said, could you find out if this child has eaten a lot of chaya raw? And the guys over here in the research said, if he had a wheelbarrow full, he might get a stomachache. But that's our FDA says, do this, 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 and that's, and you know what? Our systems are not used to it. Over there, it's a much more common food, maybe, so that's another reason why for us it would be a little different. But yeah, typically you would steam this, cook it before you would eat it. We live in these very populated cities of the world. They don't have access to ground or any kind of soil to grow in. So these are alternative measures that we take to show them how they can grow food for their family or perhaps even have an income. Homeschoolers that come through here and the moms, and one time the mom said to me, I can't believe you're demonstrating growing things in a tire. Don't you know, doesn't Echo know about the chemicals that can leach? Well, that's a valid point, right? In the United States, just like our Chaya, we don't eat it raw. We probably wouldn't, show this to Americans. But guess what? If you're a mother that needs to feed her children and you don't have access to any other vegetable to grow other than in a tire, you're going to do that, right? So basically what we're looking at is different ways to grow in different things you can find in the dump. Cement blocks, swimming pools, there's old guttering over on the far side. Of all the plants out here, probably almost 1,000 maybe plants, there's probably 3 that I like to focus on. I call them the stars of the show. And Neem is probably one of those, definitely one of those trees. Neem tree is basically, when you think of going to the pharmacy, the CVS, so many of the products you find there, like cortisone, skin products, pest control for your animals, for yourself, are made or similar to the neem tree. The neem tree has so many products, not only for that, for skin, but also for what you're supposed to do before you go, when you go to the dentist, and they say, do you do this every day? And you said, of course I do. And you don't.
Floss.
Floss. This is a floss. Natural. Mother Nature's, God's floss. Right here. Right? It's got all the properties in this that fight the bacteria that's found in the mouth. So you can make toothpaste with this, mouthwash with this, everything you can think of, skin, mouth, and also if you've ever been, of course we're all from Florida, right? So we all know about that little souvenir friendly fire ant, right? As we talk to the people from up north who come down, watch out for the fire ants. If you're ever unlucky enough to have getting bit by one, and you did put your neem oil on first to prevent it, you just take your neem oil and you dab it on the bite where it's starting to swell and get red and itchy, and it takes that swelling and itch down. Also, if you're smart enough, and like I forget, but if I go out to garden, I'll put some around on my wrists and my hands and on my ankles because they like to go in your shoes, right? And you just put that on, the neem oil, it keeps them away from you. So that's another big plus for gardeners. If you have animals, cats, dogs, whatever, and the fleas and all that, you just rub this into their coat, the oil. I've talked to farmers from other areas of the world that actually have cattle farms, and they say that they grow these trees specifically to keep the pests away from the cattle in the fields. Cool. It's like a deterrent. You can also, as a gardener, take the leaves and make a bucket of water and let the leaves sit in the water and pour that over your plants and around your plants to kind of get rid of the pests. Also a natural fertilizer. Bamboo, you can understand why, probably very simple ideas why bamboo is so important in these areas of the world. Grows quickly, right? In dry conditions, although it loves a lot of water, but it does quite well when we don't have a lot of water. Speaking of quickly, it can grow inches in one day. Given the right variety and the right circumstances, it can grow up to, I think, 12 inches in a day. Don't quote me on that, but about that. So again, you can see many different types of bamboo as we go out the farm. We use it in our structuring of our fences and our bridges. Areas where we need to grow plants upwards to get sunlight, like in the rainforest, we will use them. So many different uses. Of course, also feed. The animals can use it as animal forage. Humans can eat bamboo shoots, right? And I learned just briefly yesterday that where the pups come up out of the ground for the new bamboo, if you dig down, just when you start seeing the little pup, you can dig down into the soil, and there are some very, very tender shoots, which are basically the ones you want to eat if you're human. And I had no clue about this until recently, because I don't typically see them here. But that's what I just found out. So again, every day it seems like I learn something when I'm in Echo. Raised beds, and they've got mulched, of course. And this represents an area where it gets a lot of rain all of a sudden, right? It can be gully washers, as we say. and can wash everything away if they're not careful. But with the mulching and with the beds formed, the water will run into the ditches, the water will be conserved because it can be very dry at other times, sort of like we are here in Florida. And so that's what this area is demonstrating. This is called a living fence, and you can see different types of trees here. And basically the purpose of this is to show a farmer that they don't have to have a traditional fence, which is very expensive. They can grow something which has multiple uses in a farm, right? It provides food for the animals. It can provide, in some cases, if it's a moringa tree, food for humans. It's the grasses, as you can see, is also a good fence. Those roots will, if you've ever planted pampas grass, those ornamental grasses, I live to regret that forever, because you will never get those roots out. But they are wonderful if you're talking about a fence line or erosion, right? They hold the soil. So those are perfect examples of how do you stop the erosion that we mentioned earlier. One of the needs for good soil. This is the only mountain in Florida, right? Man-made, taking a mountain, as you saw in the video, and reclaiming it for use for some farmer who cannot afford the good land on the mountain, right? The good stuff is where? Where's the good stuff? At the bottom, right? Because of the erosion. And on the side of the mountain is where all the bad stuff is. So basically, we're demonstrating here how you take a pretty much unusable hillside or mountain and create something that can grow all kinds of things, from perennials like fruit trees and mangoes and papayas. And on this side, we have other kind of crops growing. They're probably more annual-like. Some of the techniques we're teaching here talks about zy-holes. Zy-holes, where you actually dig a hole, you put a plant, you put some type of a fertilizer, whether it's compost or something nutritious, and you bury it with a mulch, and you water just that hole. And that's basically what we were teaching folks to grow in these areas of the world. If you look over here to the barrels we're looking at, this is something called a biogas digester. This is something that we explore more for demonstration and teaching purposes on the appropriate technology side. But they set it up here, part of it originally. And what this does is it takes organic plant material or waste material, let's say from the cattle or the goats or from the rabbits or whatever they happen to have, and create a 50% slurry, water and manure or plants, and let it sit for a week to 10 days in the barrel, the black barrel, where it becomes a biogas. That biogas is then drawn off and fed. In this case, they've buried a line and fed it over to show how a cooking stove, basically a little stand here, can actually use the gas from the biogas digester. Why is it so important? And I know this is more about the appropriate technology side about cooking, but why is it so important that Echo talks about this type of thing, creating some way to cook? First of all, the mother who has a baby on her back bends over a fire and smoke a lot of the day. So she's getting something like 2 packs of cigarettes a day is what they've estimated, and the baby. And not only that, the little girl, if she has a girl, not the son so much, but the girl would be tasked to go out and search for the wood, so she can't go to school. So there's just a multiplying effect there on the fact that if you can figure out how to cook, something like that, it affects so many other areas of their lives, right? So just like most of the other animals here, they are working. They will actually take the chickens and put them into something like we call it a chicken tractor. So it's usually got wheels, it's very mobile, and they will put the chickens in there, or the baby pigs, and they will put them out into an area of the yard that they want to work the soil. And they will actually be left out there in a very shady spot, so they're out there working and pecking, and they're taking out the bugs, they're aerating the soil, they're fertilizing the soil, right? And then when it's done with that little spot, the farmer can lift that wheeled tractor to the next area and do the same thing. That's with hogs or with chickens, because the hogs use their snoot, right? So they're finding a lot more uses with the hogs. Keyhole gardening, it's an old-fashioned term, keyhole. Do we even have keyholes anymore? I mean, but why would this be useful? Who could use this in these areas of the world? Or even in
urban.
Pardon?
Small backyard.
Yep, and what else? people who can't. Disabled, yes, very good. So this is really a convenient way for somebody to make use of small spaces to grow things, especially if they're incapacitated.
This is my third time coming to Echo, and I have no doubt that I will be back again. Every single time I come, I learn something new, whether it's a new variety of plant, a new growing technique, or more appropriate technology for what I'm working with. If you're in the area, make sure to check them out, or even plan a day trip and take one of their tours to find out more about growing in our climate and how to do so sustainably. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to head on down below and hit the thumbs up button. And while you're down there, the subscribe button with the little bell next to it so you're alerted every time a new video comes out on Florida-based vegetable gardening.